not be afraid of embracing this technology. It's only going to make them better, cheaper, and faster. Now is better than perfect. And unfortunately, I think we as attorneys or lawyers, we're trained to kind of be perfect and never make a mistake. It's the only industry in this world that is not able to give you a real number as to a budget, which is insane.
Michaël, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining me here and in person, which is a luxury for us these days because we typically do this virtually.
Love it.
And I love doing it in person because you just connect differently. I can look deep into your eyes.
Don't look too deep. There's nothing there. There's nothing.
But thank you, and in the beautiful Sagard offices as well, with some really nice art, which I'll ask you about afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. Whatever I can do.
So, Michaël, tell us a little bit about you, a bit of upbringing, and how, think about how much our childhood influences us as adults. But tell us a bit about sort of where you were born and raised, and a little bit about the upbringing.
Sure. So all the childhood trauma. So I'll start.
Including the trauma. I mean, it's part of who we are.
It is definitely part of who I am. So I was born and raised here in Montreal. My parents are Moroccan immigrants, came here in 1968. I am first generation Canadian, and the first person to kind of grow up in the legal field. So my dad's an accountant. My mom was a nurse for many years. I wanted to become a doctor, like many other lawyers, or failed doctors, as they call them. So I am a great disappointment in my family, and I don't think that anybody knows exactly what I do. So this might be really helpful for my parents. Unfortunately, it's in English, but they will love to hear about what I do. So I am a francophone. So languages are very important to me. And we'll talk about that as we go along. And learned English as growing up, mostly from television. So if I sound like television, it's because I learned English that way. And was born and raised here. Went to university at Université d'Ottawa, and that's where I studied my civil law degree and my common law degree and a diploma in legal and legislative drafting. And that's where I also met my Argentinian wife, and that's how I learned Spanish as well. So that is kind of the background as to how I came to be a lawyer. But I did want to be a doctor before I became a lawyer. I actually met my way through an exchange program, and that kind of was one of the turning points of my life. We met through this exchange program. We lived together in Ottawa. After I graduated and articled in Gatineau Hall, in the biggest law firm in Gatineau, Noël et Associés, so shout out to them. I used to do court running to the Supreme Court using the partner's Toyota Tercel and driving across the bridge. Those little things kind of, I finished my articles, we got married in Canada, then moved to Argentina, where I basically started my corporate law career and worked in Buenos Aires for a few years. My wife did the same. We lived there for a couple of years, then came back in 2001, right before the Argentinian default or crisis, and just restarted our lives and careers here. So that's kind of the background. Worked at Norton Rose or Ogilvy Renault for a few years. Bit of a jack of all trades, master of some. They didn't quite know what to do with me, so they just put me, and I was doing competition law, international trade, M&A, securities, outsourcing, licensing, whatever you can imagine I was doing. Always loved doing that. Kind of prepped me for my second career, in-house career, and the first thing I did was go to Québécois World, where I was in-house counsel there, and managed Latin American function, also the legal functions in Canada and the Europe and the US, and that was kind of a lot of fun working for the biggest commercial printer in the world. I have lots of funny stories for the outtakes of this thing. Then after that, I spent a couple of years at Archetypical World, and that's kind of the big change was moving to PSP Investments, where I spent 17 years there.
17 years.
Probably the best years of my career so far, for anybody who's listening from my current employer. And that's where I did most of my, all my M&A career, and just the most fascinating transactions, working for $280 billion investment manager, just working on, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of transactions, anything that you can imagine in over 30 jurisdictions. So really unique experience that I lived through. And after 17 years, moving here and just reaping all of that experience and trying to apply it, and writing the new pages of the Sagard history.
Well, and it's a fascinating story, and I have so many follow-up questions for you now.
Go for it. Go for it.
So the real reason why you learned Spanish is to keep up with the mother-in-law, is that true?
No, I wish I did not know what she was telling me, but we'll edit that part out. So it's a strange full circle story. So yes, I met my wife. I did learn Spanish in my early 20s when we met, but my mom's mother tongue is actually Spanish, and in Morocco she was born in La Zone Espagnole, as we call it, and that was her mother tongue. Her mom only spoke Spanish, and I spoke Spanish to my grandmother for the first time in my early 20s. I had no idea what she was talking about previous to that, which is odd. And I have Spanish citizenship now. My daughter and my kids and my son both speak Spanish, so it is kind of a bit of a full circle experience. So I love that you guys are doing this, because languages are really important to my being and to my history. So that's kind of part of it.
Well, and following this, we're also going to have to add subtitles for your parents, so that they can actually
in
find
Spanish
out more.
Find out more.
We'll add both Spanish and French just for good measure.
They'll love that. They'll love that.
And again, interesting career and doing it in different jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. At one point started gravitating towards legal operations, mm-hmm. to some extent. And for many people, that's still somewhat of a foreign term.
Yes. And
I don't mean foreign from a national perspective, mm-hmm. but just relatively new. And something that doesn't come natural to everybody. So how did that come about? Like, how did you gravitate towards that as an area?
Okay, so I think, I thought about this. I think I remember, I like to problem solve. This is kind of one of the things that I like to look at how we do things and just figure things out. As a kid, I remember, some people's disarray, I remember dismantling little toys and then just like trying to figure out, breaking them obviously, and then trying to put them back together. And similar to that, I remember the first time I've had that feeling is looking at the invoice approval process at Quebecor World, my former employer, and just like looking at this, it's like, oh my God, this is not okay, and we should do certain things to kind of streamline it. And that was kind of the first time I've discovered this is a legal business issue that could be made better, or our lives could be made better. So that was kind of the first time. And then when I got to PSP Investments, this was another experience where we wanted to set up a document management system for all of the transactions. So, I was given the challenge, hey, do you want to take a look at that? I say, yeah, of course. And I love putting things, if you look at my office, you might say, oh my God, it's total chaos. And if you look at my desktop on my computer, it's like there's total chaos. However, I love to find order and in the chaos. So I am able to set up operations and build taxonomies on how there could be order. But I'm also really good at living in chaos. So that's part of the beginning of it. And at PSP, I managed to set up the taxonomy and build a document management system, and then it was an e-billing system, and then it was electronic signatures, and then it was building dashboards, and then it was building a database of unstructured data, turning that into structured data. And then it was now AI, and then it was a bunch of things. Kind of you pull the string on it, and there's a million things that you can do to do things better, right? So I am, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't like the status quo of things, and I question myself every day. Are we doing things right? Is there a better way? And I think that's just good and keeps us sane.
And it would, but it's funny because for the longest time, I think to this day, you still say, "Well, I'm not a legal operations person."
I'm not.
Although everything you described is sort of now there's total roles at larger, especially larger legal departments and within law firms that do legal operations, and they would be in charge of all of these. So.
Yeah, and it's funny that you should say that, but we don't have a legal operations department here.
100%.
But so much of what we do is legal operations. There's very few times in my day and the day of all of our lawyers is, hey, I'm going to write a legal opinion or I'm going to do pure drafting.
Right.
A lot of what we do is coordinate. A lot of what we do is project management. A lot of what we do is build processes and policies. So we have to be really good at that.
For sure.
Understand the law, but also understand how the business needs, and that fundamentally we are a cost center. Recognize that, and when you recognize that, then you have to find ways of being the most efficient that you can be, and work out loud in order to show our internal clients that we are doing that.
For sure. Well, and this is to your point, everyone has to wear that legal operational hat in some way, even though they may not be their entire role, because the legal profession is changing so quickly that becomes a critical part of it.
Absolutely. It is really changing, and I just came back from London speaking on a generative AI panel in the private investment fund world, and it is really scary for a lot of people. I am not afraid, and the reason I'm not afraid is I can't be afraid to embrace
Absolutely.
Things that are different and that might scare other people right now. But it's a scary time to be a young lawyer. It's also a scary time to be an older lawyer.
I'd say older. Well, and so I think this is a good time to ask for a piece of advice, because if you think about many lawyers that may be scared or just don't know what to do with it. So what advice would you have for them if they're like, I don't know how to tackle this? Like, how do you start?
You start with $20 a month, which you'll spend on testing different things. Yep. Same thing when you get a Netflix, you get a Netflix subscription or an Apple TV one or a Prime or this or that. You just and you have to pick one, right? You just do the free.
Wait, you have to pick one. Somebody's got to tell my family that.
Yeah. I say that, and I have all of those subscriptions. Okay, so I have all of the subscriptions on the generative AI platform. So I have a ChatGPT version. I have Claude from Anthropic. I have Gemini. I've got them all, and what I say is experiment,
right?
Test, do pilots. Figure try to figure out what you want to achieve, and talk to your friends, talk to people like me, talk to other people that are interested in the theme, and find out what they're doing. And that's really what kind of drives, I won't say innovation, because I don't think we're being innovative. We're trying to find solutions, and we all have budgets, and necessity is the mother of invention, and it really is right now. So that's what I recommend. If you want, try it out, and if you don't like it, try something else, and talk to people. Ask, what are they doing? What are you trying to achieve? And I think that really works. It's worked for us.
Well, and I think learning from other people's experiences and being open in an ecosystem that is evolving is a great methodology.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. I talk to so many lawyers that say, I'm too busy doing what I'm doing. I don't have time for this. What would you say to them?
Make the time. Make the time, because it's going to unlock more time for you. And that's what's happened to us and to our legal department. I was hired into this role, and we have a team of about 20 people, 10 lawyers, 10 compliance and paralegals, and lots of not pushback, but people don't love change. I don't love change,
for sure.
But you're being asked to do things a certain way. You've got limited resources, and everybody wants more oxygen, more resources in order to do more with about the same. And suddenly there's something like, it's basically steroids, right? It's steroids for lawyers, and just play with it.
100%.
And suddenly you're able to unlock polish like you've never been able to unlock before. And I have a bunch of, I work out loud. I have no shame in saying, I use generative AI, I use steroids, legal steroids, all the time. And people now even question whether this is coming from me or is it coming from machine. And the reality is, it's a mix of both. Sometimes
100%.
I use it just to kind of test what I'm thinking about, or sounding board as to what I'm doing. It's like, does this make sense? And it's able to kind of challenge you and challenge yourself, make your work product so much better, so much quicker.
For sure.
And that is totally worth that $20 a month. There are products that are much more expensive out there that will give you a lot more value as well, but work with what's out there and play around with it.
For sure. Well, and I think one of the best pieces of advice that you gave is you have to make time to experiment, regardless how little it is.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, we saw this in translation because, as you can imagine, this happened a bit early on in translation. And I remember us doing 5 years ago a webinar, and our head of R&D said, sort of in a webinar setting, saying, look, translators shouldn't be afraid of AI. They should be afraid of other translators using AI effectively. Yeah. And it's the same thing with lawyers, right?
It's the same thing. I mean, lawyers should not be afraid of embracing this technology. It's only going to make them better, cheaper, and faster, which is kind of the holy grail, right? People find this really annoying, but there are 3 types of services: good, fast, and cheap, right? But you can only get 2. I say that now you can get 3. So the thing is, you can be fast and cheap, but it's not going to be good. You can be good and fast, but it's not going to be cheap. Yeah. And what's the other one? And
what other permutations?
Yeah, and the other permission is
cheap and good, but it won't be fast.
Cheap and good, and it won't be fast. And that was kind of the reality, and sums up. A senior partner at Davies showed me that little sign, and I've really embraced that in the context of legal operations. And it's true, but right now, when you add generative AI, you can be all three of those things, internally and externally. So try to find that, and now's the time to have a competitive edge over your competitors, over other departments in your environment.
Very much so.
It's very exciting.
Now, none of us have a magic ball, but if we were having this conversation,
I actually have one in my office.
I knew this all along. I'm glad we're doing this podcast, because I knew you had some advantage that no one else knew.
So maybe we'll take a picture and I'll show you. I have a crystal ball in my office. I really do. I have an obsession with spheres, and that's in my office. But I go ask me question.
Well, now I know that you will actually give me the answer,
yes,
because
of course.
You've gone to the magic ball.
Yeah.
So, if we were having this conversation 10 years from now, what does legal practice look like?
Oh shit!
You have to go back to the
What does legal practice look like? It looks a lot more comfortable than it is now. I think that we're going to be able to remove a lot of the uncertainty in terms of how much time things take, in terms of how much things cost, and that is something that it's the only industry in this world that is not able to give you a real number as to a budget, which is insane, right? But till this day, accounting firms have been able to do it, translation firms have been able to do it, but law firms still have a lot of difficulty to give you like a real number as to, hey, how much is this going to cost? So they give you
It depends.
a fork, right? It's more like a rake, but they can't give you like une fourchette ou un râteau, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of what's happening in the legal profession, and it's exciting because I think the firms that are able to embrace technology, generative AI, and that do it really quickly are going to be able to quote things on a capped basis or a fixed fee basis, and that's the future of the profession.
Right.
You're able to quote, here's my estimate. It's actually it's a fixed fee. How I find efficiencies as a firm is my business. Right. And then you're suddenly competing not on the basis of not on the basis of who provides the better services, because a lot of this is commodity work, but it's going to be like, how do you find efficiencies?
Right.
Which is the best firm for finding efficiencies, right? And I think that's the future of the profession, and law firms that are able to do it will be the leading law firms, and they're going to survive.
When I think we're seeing this incrementally happen already, so you can see this 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. So I had the pleasure of interviewing another Moroccan gentleman, but this one was straight from Morocco.
Yes.
He had moved to the U.S. in the late 80s.
Yeah. Moroccans are awesome, by the way.
Yeah, but clearly, these are the parallels I'm seeing here in general. And he's the head of digital at Citi globally. We sit on the board together. Fantastic guy. His name is Driss Temsaman.
Okay.
We'll send you the Wikipedia page later.
Yeah, of course.
So I asked him the question. I said, "How do you see the evolution of things?" And he said, "We're at a stage where, in a year's time, we'll see about the evolution of what we'd seen 10 years before, because of how quickly things are evolving." What do you think of that?
I think it's true. I think it's really true, and I'm seeing it now. I think when was it? 2022 or 2023. I saw the first iteration of. We all saw like the first iteration of ChatGPT,
right.
The free version, and I had it's like. Oh my God. I had an oh my God moment. I remember this really, really precisely. I think it was January or February 2023. And I was just like playing around with it. And I said, I have never seen evolution like that. And it was it was an aha moment for me. Like, we need to do something with this really quickly.
Right.
And I need to understand how that works. And I need to see how I can implement it in my work, because it's going to make me a better lawyer,
For sure.
a better leader, a better manager. And that was kind of a big aha moment. And the technology from ChatGPT, the first release, to today is astounding. The evolution of it is just astounding. Like, it is so mesmerizing what is happening. The outputs that are coming in, it's just, there's hallucinations, you can't trust the work, and you can't trust anybody. And you can't trust anything.
For sure.
So, our responsibility as professionals and as translators or legal professionals is to check the work.
That's right.
And
validate.
And what you're seeing now is the validation is getting so much easier to do, and the quality of the work product, the polish of it, is so impressive. And I'm lucky that I'm able to unlock it, and my team is able to unlock that and provide more value to our internal customers and to our stakeholders and to our investors. It's really a great time right now.
And I think that's the way to look at it, is these tools will keep evolving. If we evolve with them, and effectively, it just makes our teams more efficient.
It does, and it's not just about making us more efficient. I think it's just about reducing risk, reducing stress. Like, there's a lot of things are moving at a pace that they have never moved before. And to have those steroids, I hate saying that because, but I don't know what it is, but like to have some sort of
amplifiers.
Or catalysts. I think that's what it is. Let's call it that. To have these types of catalysts, it just enables you to move at another pace and just think about things differently.
Correct.
So there's different types of thinking. There's this really good Harvard Business Review article that came out recently talking about the different types of thinking, and it just got me thinking about things. And now you can unlock, just instead of going into the weeds of things and getting into the muddle of that, you can start thinking more strategically and help align with how your business partners are thinking. And that's what they want.
That makes a lot of sense. And what advice would you give to legal business leaders, so chief legal officer, general counsel, or just business leaders in general that have to now communicate this to their teams and set expectations of their teams?
Wow. I have trouble doing it with my team.
It's never easy.
So it's never easy. But I think if I was to give advice, again, we're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. I think experiment. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. I make so many mistakes. Is this recorded? I do. I really do. And the mistakes that we make are in tone, in how we communicate, in substance sometimes, less times. It's harder to make mistakes these days. There's so much help that we get. So it's really how you message things, how you work out loud. So I think it's just trying different things and finding your voice and what's most impactful. Sure. And if you're able to do that, I think that's going to have the most impact in an organization. So try to find a voice. You can't be everything. What generative AI and technology allow you to do is to experiment very quickly, so much faster in finding that impactful voice.
Well, and a mentor of mine had mentioned this as something he had learned from one of his mentors, saying, now is better than perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so true, especially in today's age, because I'm going to wait for LLMs to get to this stage or to that stage. No, you have to learn how to interact with them, and the sooner you learn, the better it is. You don't have to look for perfection. It's the now better is better than perfect. It's just truer than ever.
It really is. It's like now is better than perfect. And unfortunately, I think we as attorneys or lawyers, we're trained to kind of be perfect, never make a mistake. And I don't know if this is if my organization is going to love this, but what I'm trying to impart on my team is experiment.
That's
make mistakes.
That's right.
Don't make fatal mistakes, right? But like try to see what you can do.
For sure.
And when you do that, sometimes you unlock something that is really, really special, and that sets us apart. That makes us just a little bit better than we were before. And I think that's what we're trying to do here at Sagard.
And I think, that's a great piece of advice for business leaders, right? Like, allow for a bit of, take away that fear to fail within the teams, because they won't experiment if they're not allowed to make the smallest mistake.
Lawyers are really afraid to fail. And there's such big, we have, I don't know why, but we are taught to grow these, to be super people or whatever, and we're not, and we make mistakes, and the law is just not a science. It is not an exact science, but we talk like it is, and that's kind of scary, when in fact everything that we do as lawyers is really just nuance, and there is never any certainty in anything that we do. It's just like the better view would be this.
That's right.
But there's all sorts of issues, and then you have to kind of find a way of where do you fit, where do you feel comfortable, and how can you defend something.
That's right. Well, and I think so many learnings just from that piece alone, but that continuous, it all goes back to the continuous learning and experimentation. So I'm going to get you to think about one question while I go to a portion of our podcast that I call the rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire questions, all right.
So before we go to rapid fire questions, I want you to think about, and this will come back at the very end, any piece of advice that we didn't get to that you'd be like, Gary didn't ask me this, but I would like to leave our audience listening to us with this one or two thoughts that I've learned over time, and that could be a much broader spectrum. It doesn't have to be so technology oriented or legal operations oriented as we may have been focused.
I think is try to be as true to yourself as you can, right? It's really hard. Like when you work in an organization or in a law firm, try to be yourself as much as you can, because life is so much more bearable that way. I think so. I don't know if it's legal advice or just life advice. I think the more you open yourself up to things, and to the world and to people, and the happier I think you're going to be.
100%.
And I think that's kind of the advice that I would give people.
Great advice.
Well, I don't know if it's great, but this is what I try to do. It's a lot of risk, because I think when I started early in my career, I was a lot more bottled up. I would keep a lot of things to myself and just like, oh, I wish I said that, and I wish I tried that, and then you just take a little bit more risk, and then you realize that taking a little bit more risk, then you're just opening yourself, and people go, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, well, maybe just kind of push things a little further. But then obviously, be careful, how far you go, because sometimes I've made mistakes in my life, and as my wife tells me, you don't have to put the dial to 11.
Right.
You could just put it at, maybe a 3, and just kind of slowly, incrementally increase the volume as you go along.
Right.
And I think that's some of the advice that at least my wife has given me.
That's sound advice.
And when I go to cocktails, I get very excited when I meet people, and I'm very excitable.
And she does this sign to you from the distance.
And, I think she probably does it in the car after. And she explains to me, it's like, why did you have to be like that? And it's like, sometimes I can't help myself. But, as I've grown older, I'm a little bit more self-aware as to how I can be, and look at yourself. And the reality is, I am not that excitable when I go home. Like, people are just very surprised when they hear from my wife say, no, he just completely shuts down when he's at home, and it's true. And it's just finding the right balance and trying to find out who you are as I grow up.
All right, rapid fire question.
Rapid fire.
So these are one word, whatever comes top of mind.
Sure.
If you were to learn one or choose a foreign language to learn that you don't already speak, what would it be?
So I'm too old to learn any language, but I would say maybe an Asian language like Japanese, Chinese, or Korean. I would love to learn one of those languages, but maybe Arabic, obviously. I don't speak Arabic. I should, and I wear the name for it, so I should speak Arabic, and I have all of the guttural genetics to be able to do it. So I think so one of those two things. So either an Asian language, which is very organic, or Arabic. I think I would love to get that back.
What's your favorite word in another language?
So it's not a word.
It doesn't have to be a single word.
It's not words. I think what I love about languages, I love languages. I love accents. I love to kind of figure out where people come from and connect with them. I think I like onomatopoeias, meaning like people making sounds, or like, for example, the universal, it's in every language, right? I love that. I love to find those types of things that connect us together. I love to find words like, that just connect us that way. Mama, papa, and, telephone, and taxi, and all of those types of words that are all the same in every single language, and that's how you kind of communicate. I love that. One of the things that I love about the French language is things that are so unique about one language. Like, for example, it's something that is the only sound in the world. It's just that, and it's just in that language. 100%. I love those types of things. So it's not just one word. I think it's just how we communicate and the uniqueness of the languages.
Is there a word you hate?
No, I don't think there's any word that you can hate. I love swear words. I swear a lot. I think I may have sworn a little bit on camera, but I love swearing. Is just kind of cathartic, and it just helps you express yourself.
Research says it's a sign of intellect, so that's...
Is it? Oh my God, then I must be really smart. But a lot of people will disagree with that.
What's one word to describe yourself by?
Funny? Fun?
I would agree. I mean, we've had a great time doing this. So.
Yeah. But it's that, but I'm also a really serious person, so this is kind of my...
the duality of
both, and sometimes I use humor to help me communicate with people, and that's kind of what I found to work for me over the years. Not too much, not 11, maybe
start at 3 and go.
Maybe a 2. How about a 0?
Well, learning to know how to dial is part of the skill.
Learning how to modulate, I think, throughout my life has been my biggest challenge. Just trying to examine, observe, find the situation, and find the right tone and the levels, as I'm sure somebody's going to be adjusting this podcast accordingly.
It'll require no editing whatsoever.
Oh, it'll require a lot of editing, trust me.
Michaël, I really appreciate you joining me on this podcast. I had so many more questions to ask you, but alas, the team keeps me in check as well with timing, because they say, well, we need to be able to do this in a time where people can consume it during a commute, otherwise we don't get to listen. And I said, it'll be hard to keep this short with Michaël, and
we did that, unfortunately.
we try to keep it as tight as we could.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for joining me here today.
Thank you so much.